Well, good morning to everybody. I apologize for not being able to travel to Bucharest and be with you. We'll try to do that in the same way anyway. Today we are going to talk about the open banking implementation from the point of view of authorities and professional associations. And first of all, I would like to introduce the participants to this panel that I have the pleasure and the privilege to moderate. So first of all, I will ask Mr. Cosmin Cosma, co-founder and CEO of Finquer, if you can tell us two words about your company and what you are doing.
Having me here. Do you hear me, Jean-Philippe?
Yeah, I hear you. Thank you.
Okay, I will stay if possible. First of all, I'm Cosmin Cosma. I'm co-founder and CEO of Finquer, but my role here in this panel is as being the president of Romanian FinTech Association. And Jean-Philippe, I believe it's a good moment to invite all the others that are here in person to come on stage, and Bastien and Arturo. Are you
yes,
here?
Sorry, I didn't see the stage, so I thought
everybody
was
I know. It's these weird times that we are living right now.
Yes.
But I'm doing my job to help you out in the moderation of this. Hello, Bastien. Hello, Arturo. We should have also online, I believe, some other participant. It is also Raluca. Raluca is with us. I don't know.
Yes, good morning, Cosmin.
Good morning, Raluca. Nice to see you. I believe. I believe it. And this is all.
We should have Thibaut de Barcy.
Thibaut, are you with us, Thibaut? I don't know.
Maybe he had a problem connecting. I don't see it in the list of participants.
Hopefully we'll have him around here. So Jean-Philippe, you asked me about Finquer. We are doing open banking. We are an open banking aggregator. We started open banking phenomenon in Romania. We already have 2 banks that are using our platform here in Romania. And on top of this, I'm also, as I told you, co-founder and president of the Romanian FinTech Association, trying to nurture the local ecosystem, not only in the open banking space, but also in the other fields of financial industry innovation. Hopefully, we will have the chance today to speak more on this on these topics.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to ask Raluca. Raluca Micu is the head of payment oversight division in the National Bank of Romania. If you can tell us a bit more about your role and what you do.
Good morning. Indeed, we are involved in what means PSD2 and open banking concept in Romania. We are in charge with, let's say, supervising the Romanian market on adhering to the open banking concept.
Thank you very much, Raluca. Then we've got on stage Bastien Lacha, Director of Technology of EMVCo. Bastien, 2 words, please.
Thank you. So I'm Bastien Lacha. I'm the Director of Technology within EMVCo, which is a technical specification body that provides specification for interoperability and security of payment all over the world. And provide as well testing processes to ensure about this interoperability. And just to make the link between what has just been mentioned by Daniel in another area, indeed looks like on the identity part, there will be the same journey that the payment space did have to solve couple for couple. Tens of years ago, in order to ensure that when you use your payment card, then indeed, as I'm French, so as a French guy, I can come to Romania and everything works, so I can pay. That's a very important part on everything that we are doing here.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Arturo González McDowell, Vice Chair of the European Association of Third-Party Provider.
Yes, thank you. And it's my pleasure to be here today with all of you. So I'm here in my capacity of I have other roles, but I'm here in my capacity of Vice Chair of EDPPA, so representing the voice of TPPs across Europe. And I've spent all of my professional life around innovation and finance. Working for companies like IBM in the finance sector, for Banco Santander, and since a while ago for Eurobits, now part of Tink. So I guess we were one of the pioneers of open banking in Europe, introducing account aggregation back in 2001. And there's a lot that has happened since then, and I guess we'll be speaking about that during this panel.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So I don't see Thibault. If he joins, we will introduce him. And we have also Maria Staszkiewicz, President of the European Digital Finance Association, EDFA. Do we? No. So she couldn't join today. Okay. So thank you very much. So I am Jean-Philippe Joliveau. I represent SIA. I'm in part of the SIA organization. SIA is a processor, European processor, but I'm here representing the Berlin Group, an association, a European association that works on standardization, and in particular, it worked on the standardization of the protocols for PSD2 and open banking. And basically, we had an ECB survey that showed that 70% of the European banks in Europe have implemented our protocol, the Berlin Group protocol called NextGen PSD2, and hundreds of TPPs are using it to access the banks all over Europe, but not only in Europe, because it's also used outside Europe. Israel and Georgia have started implementing it. We have now moved, after compliance on PSD2, on working on open finance. So that's making standards to allow banks and TPPs and fintechs to use the APIs developed on with PSD2 and with new use cases. And so we have an open finance task force, and this task force groups 68 participants from 29 countries. It's really a mutual work. All the protocol, all the standards are free for use, so we are not a commercial organization. And we have also an advisory board composed of more than 80 TPPs, fintechs, technological providers that are working together in building this standard. So this is to make the transition to the first question I would like to ask to the panel. So the question is, what is the state of open banking in Europe from your point of view? Where are we? Is it working? What is working? What isn't working? From the regulation and the implementation points of view, and how do you think it will change the payment industry? So maybe Raluca, you could start giving some ideas from your point of view.
Thank you, Jean-Philippe. Yes, so what can we say? We saw that still we have PSD2 around since early 2016, but we have European countries struggling in implementing the requirements until early 2018. And right now we see that the market has evolved, but still there are a lot of other issues that needs to be revised. So the PSD2 did not have a big bang impact on the payment service market as we expected. We can argue that this is also due to the delays registered while implementing the new requirements, but also we have to take into consideration the complexity brought up in terms of regulation. Moving a little bit to the Romanian market, we saw that PSD2 implementation registered some positive aspects in terms of acknowledgement of the open banking importance by the banks. Although banks tend to be the most conservative type of market players when it comes to new ideas and technology, in terms of sharing secure financial data and information. So we saw that in the first 2 years, banks received PSD2 and the new requirements on the open banking concept as a compliance tool and not a business opportunity instead. So even so, we see now that the approaching of the bank is changing, and we assist to a transition from the open banking concept to the open finance one. So traditional banks that were used to have full control over all the information became aware actually of the threat coming up from the new competitors that shown up the market claiming more agile services, innovative user experience, and customized services and products for the clients. So banks needed to start their digital transformation, where open and digital communication is the key to resist on a market such as we see also a market supported by the regulation, such as open banking, in order to encourage the control and open exchange of the data through APIs. And lastly, in my opinion, it's that PSD2 took the digitalization race to a whole new level, as banks realized that resisting the change is no more a viable option given the market pressures, and have embarked to a digital transformation process, investing in innovation and fintechs. And as a result, we see a lot of movement in the fintech market in Romania, but also in the European market.
Thank you, Raluca. Yes, that's very interesting because it was, in fact, what we were seeing also within the Berlin Group. At the beginning, it was, let's make this compliance job and have APIs, but now it's evolved in the same direction. You are right. Arturo, what is your point of view?
Well, first, let me say, is the voice getting through?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So let me say, open banking is very ample, and so it includes not only payments but other financial services that go beyond payments, and so to a large extent, what has happened in Europe is that we've regulated open banking related to payments, but not yet beyond payments, but it has been affected anyway. So PSD2 did not invent open banking or open finance. So as I said, we've been doing this in Europe since at least 2001. So there's good things and bad things happening. So the fact that PSD2 is regulating open banking in the payment space is to some extent very positive, because it has raised awareness. So everybody's talking about this. Every single financial institution in Europe has to act. I can tell you that this is significantly different to the space we were at as Eurobits, trying to sell account aggregation to banks when this was not regulated. So you had to convince them that this was a thing. Now you don't have to convince them. They have to do something. So it's very positive from that angle. So I think it's created a massive space for collaboration and for doing business, ultimately in the benefit of the consumer and companies using the services. But then there's the bad side. And the bad side is related to Europe exploring uncharted territory with regulating open banking. So it had never been done before anywhere in the world. Well, it was there was a simultaneous exercise in Europe, in the UK, with open banking with capital letters. But at the time, we could still consider that Europe. The problem is that we faced many issues that were not foreseen, or at least were not foreseen by all. I think us TPPs warned the Commission that this was going to happen. So basically, banks have no financial incentives to share one of the most valuable assets they have, which is customer information, with their competitors for free. So the only incentive banks have to share the data is to be able to fly under the radar of their supervisors and to potentially avoid fines for breaching a European directive. So it is only rational for banks to do the minimum necessary to comply with the law, and that's it. So from that perspective, it's very difficult for things to work smoothly. And then I think there's another big issue, which is related to governance. So PSD2, well, there are many aspects to PSD2, but at least from my perspective, the key elements of PSD2 were to introduce innovation and competition in the payments space in Europe. And the body that has more impact on governance in PSD2 is the EBA, the European Banking Authority. And if you go to the EBA's website and you check what its mission is, what its mandate is, what its objectives are, you will not find neither the word innovation nor the word competition. So it's natural that they take a very conservative approach in interpreting everything that comes from PSD2, which is basically the expression of the will of the European Parliament. So to some extent, we are worse off than we were before PSD2. But luckily, there are things happening. So this is not a static picture. And I'm very optimistic that things will change for the good in the near future.
Thank you very much, Arturo. Yes, I think one of the issues is to understand how to balance regulation and the market in this kind of topic. Cosmin, what is your view on that?
So open banking and its evolution right now in Europe is like one of my favorite things to speak about. I remember 2 years ago, 2 years or 3 years, I don't know, Sergio, it was on the same stage at the banking 4.0, Bastian, you know, and I was saying at that point that the open banking is still in its prehistory. And unfortunately, I can tell the same right now. We are just escaping the compliance stage of open banking. Like Arturo said, the banks are not having an incentive to open their data. Indeed, they are doing it in terms of PR. They are speaking a lot. There is a massive talk on open banking, but they are trying to buy time. And fortunately for them, buying time is something that it is easy to be done because the regulation is very stuffed. It is a reason to be proud. To be proud if you get, after the bureaucracy of getting the license with that paper, you go and say, yeah, we have the paper, and then still the open banking is not there. We don't see the wave yet. Fortunately, guys like me, founders of startups in this space, are building our board for surfing the wave when it will come. And hopefully in 1 or 2 years from now, we will see it coming. And we are doing all our efforts with little power to make it happen. We are trying to do use cases with banks. We're trying to convert the banks from resistant to this movement in early adopters of this movement. But it's still more to be done, even more than to talk about.
Thank you, Cosmin. Yes, let's hope it will evolve in the future in a more positive way, where when we are discussing, in fact, today to understand how that could happen, how we could make sure that banks are more proactive and collaborate with fintechs to build new use cases on open banking and open finance. I see that Thibaut has arrived. So Thibaut de Barcy is the Vice Chairman and General Manager of the Payments Association EU. Thibault, just good morning, and just 2 words if you want to explain your role, your activities.
Well, the Payments Association EU is active in the 27 countries of the European Union, and we are a business club of decision makers of the payment industry. So we do not pretend to be lobbyists. We are much more like a business club interacting with different components of the value chain, and we organize, of course, seminars, events, education, and great live events as well.
Thank you very much, Thibault. We were just discussing the state of open banking in Europe. So what is your view on where we are? That is, what is working and what isn't from the regulation and the implementation points of view, and how do you think it will change the payments industry?
Well, to be very short, I think that basically, if you look at everything related to aggregation, account aggregation, application based on aggregation, it's working quite well. Of course, a lot of new players are not happy about the quality of the APIs provided by the traditional banks, but it's moving in the right direction. What is not working are all the application based on payments initiation, and that is very obvious. I mean, we don't see the use cases. We don't see anyone being successful in this field, and this is where basically either we will need a PSD3 or a strong revision of PSD2, but this is where it's lagging, very obviously.
Thank you very much. So we will see in the future if a PSD3 is arriving or if there will be a revision of PSD2, but that could be, yes. We were talking just before about the necessity to balance regulation and market. So this is an interesting point of view in this relation. So I would like to, because time is going, so we will switch to the second question, and which is based on something we've seen at the Berlin Group, because we have had a request of the work on triggered payment functionality to be added in the APIs, which means that's a connection between blockchain and distributed ledger technology and payment. So because you have some smart contracts in the blockchain area in digital ledger technology, we could have some APIs allowing to initiate a payment coming from these smart contracts. So that would be a very nice and a smooth way of integrating both areas. So the blockchain technology and the use cases based on the blockchain, and when there is a necessity to have a payment, to be able to pass this payment to the ASPSP and define it and manage it in a correct way, because it's coming from an area which is not the traditional business area we know. So I would like to ask Bastien, what is your view on that? What do you see? Do you see that as a trend, or how will it happen? The connection between blockchain and APIs.
Thank you, Jean-Philippe. I mean, I'm a technology director, so I feel, I mean, I'm a strong believer in technology, and I love technology. I also think that the technology should be used for what it's made for, and so the way I see it is that indeed blockchain, as it's well known for being able to tracking exchanges or with the ledgers and everything, can be quite useful for the payment industry and for some functions of the payment industry. You mentioned one use case, Jean-Philippe, but there are probably others as well. And I know that some of the internal payment systems are piloting the use of blockchain for some functions as well. I still believe that the traditional payment will coexist, and we mentioned open banking earlier, and 3 years ago where we stand and where we stand now, and maybe where we will be in 2 years. So I guess the same will apply with blockchain. So the good use cases needs to be found and needs to be addressed thanks to blockchain, and that will probably happen. I don't have a crystal ball, so I won't try to evaluate if next time we meet this will be the case. But at least there's no doubt that this technology will be using at some point. If you are comparing it and thinking about all the use cases in payment, indeed, I mean, EMVCo has been working in making sure that the face-to-face payment is quite fast, 500 milliseconds when you are using your contactless card, your mobile phone. So definitely the blockchain technology with the cryptography behind that is probably not the best place for that. But as I said, there are other use cases that could be considered. And again, you will say that I'm always talking about it, but it's a key aspect of payment. This is the interoperability, and you need to make sure that all these use cases are driven by the same wish for interoperability, so that anyone can use it, and that it could be completely transparent for the consumer and potentially for the merchant as well. So that's a key part of it. I would just add as well that there is still potentially need to evaluate the security associated to the use of the blockchain in specific areas. Again, that's one of the big things that EMVCo is looking at, not for blockchain, but usually for all the other things. So, I mean, as soon as all these questions has been solved, there's no doubt that blockchain will be used efficiently within the payment industry.
And we'll be connecting them, yes. Interoperability, yeah. Everything must be done in a pragmatic way. I agree with you. Arturo, what is your view?
Thank you. First, although I was an original Berlin Group advisory board member and now I'm part of the Manchester Group, unfortunately I don't have the time to follow the evolution as close as I would like. And secondly, although I have a background in cryptography and I think I understand blockchain, I'm also not an expert in blockchain. But what I can say is first, blockchain, in my view, is probably, and I've been long enough in the IT industry, and I've never heard a more overhyped term than blockchain. So blockchain basically is a public distributed ledger system, and it's been proposed for all kinds of wild things, like it's going to solve all the world problems. But currency and payments is one place where it particularly makes a lot of sense. So, being the Berlin Group, a body that is European by nature and governed mostly by, if not exclusively, by financial institutions or companies owned by financial institutions, I think it will be extremely close to what the European Union does in that space. And currently, what seems that European Union is going to do in that space is related to the digital euro, which is currently in an investigation phase. Actually, only a few weeks ago, the Market Advisory Group was announced to conduct this phase. And it's not 100% certain whether the European Union will have a digital euro or not. But if it does, it will most likely use blockchain, which is also not a certainty, even if we do have a digital euro, and it will certainly have the potential of completely changing the payments industry, to the extent that there are scenarios where you could envisage a digital euro that completely disintermediate all payment actors that are currently in the space. I think that is unlikely because the European Union tends to be conservative with existing actors, but we will have to closely watch how this evolves, particularly bearer-based digital euro. So you have account-based, which might have a lesser impact in payments because it will be very close to paying with accounts, but bearer base, meaning a digital euro that you carry on your phone, on your card, or any other kind of wearable or device, has the potential of completely changing the shape of the payments industry. So we'll have to work to be very wary of what happens there, and I'm sure the Berlin Group is doing that and will support whatever comes from the Digital Euro Group.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, indeed, we are going to work on, according to the input of our member of participants. And I think, yes, you're right, digital euro and maybe more generally, central bank digital currencies as a whole is something that we could put in the program for a panel, perhaps not next year, but in 2 years, we may have some news and some to be discussed. Now I've seen that Maria Stashkevich has arrived. So Maria, would you like to say 2 words to introduce you? You're on mute, okay,
yes.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It seems that there has been some misschedule between my Central European time calendar and the...
We have trouble
being late a little bit. Is it better now?
Yes, now we are hearing you better.
Okay. So for the past year and a half, I've been working for the European Digital Finance Association, which is a federation of fintech association across the EU that wants to be more active in shaping, co-shaping the EU regulatory landscape and support the networking among various associations and fintech hubs in the EU. So that's a way of introductory myself.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I will go to the next questions we have today. So it's about the skills that a banker, the banker of the future must have in a digital world where now you have the app replacing human resources. What is going to be their role? What do you think, Thibaut, for instance?
Well, Jean-Philippe, don't get me wrong. Anything that can be automated will be automated. So if we are talking about payments, basically anything that is national and B2C is on the verge of being 100% completely digitized. But when you go to the B2B world, when you go to cross-border, when you go to large volumes, when you go to trade financing, when you go to supply chain financing, believe me, there things are still extremely complex. And this is where we still need very good humans with a high level of knowledge to get things organized. And this is for the payments world. If you look at other branches of finance, when it touches to taxes related to payments or taxes related to investments, believe me, it's very local, it's very complicated, and therefore we are far of having everything being digitized in that kind of field.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at the things. Bastien?
Yeah, I would take a different direction. While I fully agree with what Thibaut just said, we all have tons of applications on our mobile, and I would like to focus on the relationship and the face-to-face. So indeed, these applications are very useful, very helpful. We can deal with most of, all of us can deal with most of the operations as consumer we are willing to perform. And my point of view, and it's more a personal one, it does not necessarily reflect what the EMVCo is doing because it's completely apart from out of the EMVCo remit. But my personal point of view is that the apps will help the bankers to focus on the most important thing, which is the relationship. And even if I'm using tons of applications, at the end, when I've got a specific need, when I need a loan, when I need something, when I've got an issue, I'm calling my banker. And this relationship, from my point of view, will be much more efficient as soon as indeed the applications can support the bankers on their decision, on their relationship, on the knowledge of their customers. And that's where I think the human bankers will go. I mean, they need to take care of this relationship. And we've seen that as well in the last 18 months. We've all been stuck at home. And I mean, I'm not sure, I'm sure you are sharing my view that I'm very happy to be here with you, face to face, being able to talk about different things, being able to have dinners and hear your history, what you faced with, be able to share ideas. Of course, we can do that through screens, and I'm sorry, guys, to see that you are still at home, but I mean, we are enjoying being there all together. I think so.
Yes, you're right. This is something that will not disappear, fortunately. Cosmin?
Yeah, if we are speaking about the bankers of tomorrow, or the bankers that should be the present bankers, first of all, their primal role is to work with money and to make money out of money. This is the banking all about first. In terms of innovation in technology, they need to be very open. For example, they need to know that API doesn't come from annoying payment intruder, but for application programming interfaces. And they need to understand that in the future, these application programming interfaces are much more valuable and important than the branches. Like a banker said some years ago at Money 2020, I don't want to see as a bank your Apple store-like branches. I want to see your interfaces, your APIs. And this is something very important for the bankers to understand, that this will be the main rail of moving money and working with money in the future, together with the blockchain technology that we spoke about, which is also coming, and it's no way to escape of it. And there is another ability that on top of not having only Excel literacy, they need to understand bigger technologies. They also need to have collaboration abilities. For example, I'm very happy that Maria is here with us at Romanian FinTech Association, which is a founding member of EDFA. We are speaking a lot about different innovation things that should be insourced in the banking ecosystem. For example, EDFA has a lot of activities in sharing through all the countries these innovation ideas, and the bankers should be also part of this dialogue. They should come to us. They should be hearing what we try to do and create collaboration bridges between fintech innovators and the old banking ecosystem.
Thank you very much, Cosmin. Maria, would you like to add something on this role?
Yes, Cosmin, thank you for bringing that. I think always the answer to your question is already in the name of our association. We are not European FinTech Association. We are European Association of Digital Finance, because we would not like to support the dichotomy between fintechs and the traditional financial service providers. I mean, it's obviously it's the tautology to say that everyone needs to use digital technologies.
I think
That's why we are a platform where we want to innovate finance, how to find new business models, and support new financial products by means of technology, which of course implies that everyone has to cooperate, because otherwise, if we want to cooperate, we'll just repeat the situations like with PSD2, which I suppose you were discussing at the beginning of the conference.
Thank you very much, Maria. I would now go to the next question. How will the consumer journey look in the future, or how should it look according to your point of view? We're talking about both the individuals, how they will handle payments in the future, but also corporate clients. And Thibaut was giving a hint on that. But now let's see what we should do to make this to change this consumer journey. Bastien, would you like to start?
Yes, I can try. Thank you, Jean-Philippe. First of all, I think the consumer journey needs to be, all the consumers are looking for a journey that is frictionless, convenient, and secure. And I mean, those convenience and security needs to be taken into account, and they are not necessarily going the same direction. We've been working, as an example, within EMVCo with the 3D Secure spec in order to help having frictionless transactions, frictionless authentication during an e-commerce transaction. But again, it means that issuers who take the decision or take the risk needs to know or to have enough information in order to take the decision as they need to be, and then indeed being able to provide as frictionless as possible a journey, but without downgrading the security. That's one point I wanted to make. The second one is indeed that the journey will be omni-channel, omni-devices, and omni-everything. So meaning that different technologies will be used. We mentioned a few of them there during the discussion, but it will also be not only on the technology in the background, but as well in front of the consumer. I've got my mobile, I've got my card, I've got my computer, I've got all these things that I can do to perform transactions. And we need to make sure that this journey is smooth, not only with one device, but when I switch from one device to another, and that will be key. The third point I'd like to make is that as part of this frictionless or seamless transactions and journey, there are other channels such as IoT that brings, for example, great opportunities and new ways to pay. You've got as well the smart speakers that can be used. So all these channels needs to be taken into account, and again provides a journey for the consumer that will be as smooth as possible without downgrading the security. And I initially had a fourth point, but I forgot it. But so all these technologies, all these means of payment will work in let's say, the most transparency part or the most hidden part. I mean, at the end, the payment is just, or the checkout is just the last part of the purchase. And indeed, the smoother it could be, the best it is. Yeah, the last point that I wanted to make is that there will be some convergence between all these technologies. And we are saying, again, I take the example of my company, the secure remote commerce, and bring the e-commerce into the shops with the use of QR code, for example. So starting performing the checkout with a QR code at the merchant premises and finalizing it with my mobile phone using an e-commerce platform. And the last part is what I see these days is the migration of the paradigm between, until now, as a consumer, I had to provide my payment credentials. And in the e-commerce space or authentication space, it often means either I use, I provide my card, card PAN or the card value, the expiration dates, and this kind of things. And this migrates to a paradigm where I need to authenticate to a secure platform. And again, I'm coming back to what Daniel said. The authentication will be key in the future, and the identity associated to this authentication as well. So what I see is a kind of shift of paradigm between providing credentials versus authenticating to a platform.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, indeed, having a good balance between the simplicity, I would say, of an interface and security is not easy, and we know that as we are working on these technologies. Maria, would you like to say something about this topic?
Yes, of course. What I do is just add to what already has been said, in a way that automation will definitely be increasing in terms of reducing the
we losing?
friction or taking the friction out of financial services. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we've lost this sentence. So automation will, sorry.
Automation will definitely take out most of the friction of financial services. What I also think that right now, when we are paying, when we are financial services, we spend a lot of time on that, and we have to think about all the things, all the activities and processes connected with financial services. I think that automation will help us forget about it. So we'll just focus on the main service that we are consuming, be it buying, enjoying a ride, etc. And financial services will not take as much time for lives as it is doing right now. And we can already see that recently under all the activities named embedded finance, when finance is being hidden onto the layer of the primary service.
Yes, thank you very much. So that's completing what Bastien was saying, and that you think that automation needs to be managed to do this thing, to smoothen the journey and make it easier, and we will achieve that. Arturo?
Well, yes. First, the only thing that you can't predict is the future. So I'm just going to drop some ideas. So first, the internet has completely spoiled the consumer. So a few years ago, we had to go to the branch for almost everything. And for as long as we could find a parking spot close enough to the branch and the queue was not long enough, we were a happy camper. And now we can be in bed interacting with our bank through a mobile app, and if it takes a few more seconds than expected, we are really pissed off with the bank. So that's one thing that's going to impact how the customer journey with the consumer is going to be in the future. Another thing that is going to impact is most parts of the business world are conditioned by physical limitations. And I would say that in stage one of digitization, what we've done is made things that were done in a certain way in the physical world electronic, but we're doing the same things only electronically. And what we'll see in the near future is the underlying business bricks being completely accessible via APIs, and what is called the API economy, seamlessly for new actors to integrate them to provide a completely new value proposition. And at the same time, as it was addressed this morning, I think the identity part will pretty soon be completely sorted out to the extent that it will be seamless. So I won't have to do SCA or anything. My mobile is in my pocket, and whatever I do, my mobile is communicating with whatever, and everybody knows that it's me, because for some biometric means there will be complete certainty that it's actually me doing whatever I'm doing. And lastly, most financial services are a means to an end, and the consumer couldn't care less about them in an isolated way. They care about them in the context of what they're doing. So I would not include financial planning or my pension plan in this, so that is probably, it's also a means to an end, but the end is so far away that they have concrete relevance to dedicate a significant amount of time to them. But in the other aspects of finance, we will tend to have financial services completely embedded in the customer journey in a completely transparent way. So I will no longer be buying a car and financing it, or I will no longer be buying a car and insure it. I will be having a completely different experience, which is I'm buying this service, which includes the car, the financing, the insurance, and things beyond finance, number plate registration or taxes or whatnot. So I think we will move to a world where the value propositions will be significantly different than they are today, and where the financial service will be seamlessly embedded in larger services.
Okay, thank you, Arturo. Yeah, a very smooth customer journey in the future, we hope. Let's go to the last question, because time is going fast. It's regarding the banks and fintech relationship in a post-pandemic world that is increasingly shifting to digital, as we've seen. There was in the past a slide that was presented to this conference where we had a whale with different building blocks, and that was representing the financial world, and you had a lot of piranhas around that, representing some fintechs trying to take their share of this whale and eat it. What do you think? How actual is this image from your point of view? So everyone wants to take a bite. Is it really the same thing now from that? Or do you think these are really piranhas or pilot fish that can help the big whale in steering to the right direction? Thibault, would you like to start?
Jean-Philippe, I love the question because I used to be one of the piranhas in my previous role. And believe me when I'm telling you that the banks are not an endangered species like the blue whales. They have never been better, or almost. They are making huge profits. And by the way, the main reason is probably that they are very good at cross-selling. There was a very interesting study by McKinsey which showed that the traditional retail banks in mature countries, they are able to sell up to 7 products per client, 7 products. And the average product per client for fintechs and neobanks is 1.2 or 1.5. And often the product is payments, by the way, where the margins are very narrow. You need huge volumes to start to earn some money. The banks, on the other hand, because the credit is at the core of their offer, basically mortgage credits for consumer or corporate credit for B2B, well, at least they are able to generate some net interest margin, which is the core of their revenues. And if there is one thing which is not harmonized in the European Union, it's credit. The definition of a credit, the legal definition, the availability of a credit scoring to allow credit, the way that you can seize assets when a credit is unpaid. And by the way, maybe this is why when Klarna is growing, actually their losses are increasing much faster than their revenues. And all the neobanks and fintechs that are trying to engage into credits, they have to be ready to lose a lot of money to start with before having to gain significant money. And by the way, just to conclude on this one, the market forces, so the level of interest rates, the regulation, the competitive forces, they are the same for the big banks, so for the whales and for the piranhas. So if you're a piranha, you'd better be very agile to start eating on the big whale.
Thank you, Thibault. Yeah, that's a good and interesting view. Maria?
Yes, I will allow myself to have a different opinion. For me, the picture is a little bit outdated because we are all focusing on what the banks have been doing for centuries. We are thinking in the mindset, yes, banks have something that they are either selling for higher prices than the fintechs or in a less, in a more in a less frictionless way. But what we tend to forget that with new technologies, completely new business models come to place, which means those new business models can become those whales out of which we piranhas, the fintechs, or even banks would like to take the bites themselves. So while we are traditionally, because that's what the history looked like, focusing a lot of how big a chunk of the whale we can consume ourselves, we are probably losing the side of new whales swimming in our seas. So, and those new whales swimming in our seas can be generated exactly by new technologies, including blockchain, DLTs, automation, etc. So, while I think that the picture used to be very telling of what the past looked like, I think now it's not that much telling.
Thank you. Yes, it's true, and there's some banks have created some fintechs themselves, or they are acting as fintechs. It's being a bit blurred. I would agree with you, Arturo.
Well, yes. First, I would like to say that I love piranhas. When I was a small kid, my dad took me to Manaus in Brazil, and I actually fished one. And you won't believe how voracious and mean they look real close. Secondly, the reasons that fintechs exist is because they can leverage inefficiencies that have been built up through the years in the financial sector. But and to that extent, the picture of the piranhas eating the whale, it's in a sense accurate. If it was possible to combine them both in salted or unsalted water. But it's only a partial view of reality. There are other angles to that are not taken into account. First, there are a number of, let's say, piranhas or fintechs. I'm not sure if you could call those fintechs piranhas, that are helping the whale swim faster. So there are some fintechs helping the whale swim like a dolphin, so to speak. And that is not taken into account in the picture. And then an additional angle is on whether the combination of piranhas and whales and dolphins is going to make a bigger pie, so make the financial space bigger, and perhaps the slice for the banks will be in a percentage smaller than it was before, but in actual size it might be bigger. So this is just a consideration. I'm not saying that actually is going to happen, but there's a certain possibility that this is not a zero-sum game and everybody will end up winning.
Thank you very much. Raluca, would you like to give a regulator's point of view on that?
Yes, indeed. So, as it was mentioned before, we are currently going through one of the most important transformation in the financial history. We see that fintech revolution will change banking as we know it. So, in my opinion, the blue whale image is the appropriate representation of a complex digital world with a lot of financial possibilities. We see that in the digital area ruled by financial data sharing principles, banks are empowered to offer a broader range of possibilities to their clients, more suited specifically to their needs. And in order to do so, they have to be innovative and also to collaborate with fintech company, as these are, to my opinion, important aspects in order to stay competitive in the market. Therefore, in order to survive, traditional banks have to change, they have to evolve, and only those willing to embrace innovation will succeed while others won't. So I can say that the blue whale envisages, to my opinion, more a collaboration between banks, traditional banks and fintech. We do not have to forget about the fact that the financial service market is a very rigorous one with a lot of compliance requirements which traditional players are used to comply with. But we see that the newcomers, the fintech companies, which usually tends to develop in a more free environment, let's say, are still trying to understand and to fit in this new ecosystem. So, as I said before, in the digital age, innovation and open and digital communication among all players is the key to survive. So the traditional bank in the middle of the picture will eventually learn to survive along with other players, such as fintechs, collaborate with them, and also they have to adapt quick the new technologies, even though we see in the present that some of the players still struggle to accept the disruption in their business model, and they are stuck between change and the traditional way of doing banking. To conclude, I think the future is only for the brave in the picture, those who will move quickly and consider to open banking and open finance services.
Thank you very much, Raluca. Now, I think we are at the end of this panel.
Jean-Philippe,
yes?
I'd like to have my own thoughts on this whale picture, because it's quite a nice picture depicting right now the transformation in the financial ecosystem. I will say like this: it is unfortunate that the bank became a whale. The expectation is for the banks to move faster than it is right now. You know, remember the banks used to be in your village, the guy that you are putting the money as an entrepreneur or as a person, so that they will keep it in good trust. Right now, we are speaking about the banking institutions which are very, very big whales. And you know what makes the whale be so lazy? It is the fat. And the piranha is helping the dieting the whale, so that because the expectation of the customers is to have a very fast reward and very fast services right now, more and more. And from our point of view, it is for the best to see the whale getting slimmer and moving faster, and the piranha to help them and for example, let's get it for a very simple practical thing. Like Daniel said in the morning, we have right now economic studies graduates checking each and every year the IDs of the customers in order to put the data from the form of paper into some systems. This is something that it is, you know, that fat that needs to be get out from the banking ecosystem. And hopefully there is the technology helping the fintechs in accelerating the things into this transformation.
Thank you very much. Yes, I think the challenge will be to transform the banks from a whale to a dolphin, but I think we will manage to achieve that.
Yeah.
So thank you, everybody. I will just summarize in one sentence what I take from some points I take from this panel. It is that open banking and open finance are at the beginning. We say that it's not completely achieved. We need to work on that. And I heard very much the word collaboration. So fintechs and banks, so the whale needs to be a dolphin, and the fintechs, the piranhas, will transform themselves into pilot fish and help the banks slim down. So that's very important. And what is going to be used for that is the centrality of the customer. We need to make everything in reference to the customer. It must be smooth, it must be user-friendly, and it must be secure. So this is the way open finance, I think, will help pilot fish and a new dolphin achieve this goal. So I thank you, everybody in the panel, everybody in the audience, and I hope we see each other in the flesh next year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.